Hi students, today we will discuss about very popular and most frequently used test which we call as a student t-test. Is being very frequently used by the researchers, the students, the academicians and all in the biological, social, psychological research. So we will discuss today what are its assumptions, what are the conditions that should be followed, how many types of t-tests are there, which test to be used in which condition, and what are the different types of tests that have been used in different contexts, and we will also discuss with an example that each test how it is working, where and how it should be used, what is the hypothesis, how to prove that. So, one of the parameter tests is very important and which most of the people use is the t-test. The origin of the t-test was, the founder was the W.S. Gossett, who used the pseudonym student when he wrote the distribution. So, basically whenever the sample size is less than 30 and preferably less than 60, this test being used. So, this test is very popular and many researchers use this student t-test, and it has got three types of tests. One is one sample t-test, where you only conduct an experiment or intervention study and you take the mean of that and SD of that study and you compare with that of the available in the either in the research or in the paper or the third party mean, whereas you conduct only one experiment, you take the mean and SD of that experiment, you compare with the other group mean, which we call as a one sample t-test. And two sample test is both the means belongs to you. For example, one is experimental group, another is control group. You conduct an experiment. From each group you take the mean, you compare whether those two means are statistically significant or not. And the third one which we encounter is the pre and post kind of study. For example, you want to repeat the same subjects initially and finally. You want to see whether the intervention has any bearing on the final outcome. And the Z test, whenever the sample size is large, the t-test is also called the Z test. So, for doing this t-test, which we call as a parametric test, what are the assumptions that are to be followed? There are basically three assumptions. One is normal distribution. So, the data for which you conducted the experiment, you got the data, that data should follow normal distribution. So, what are the assumptions that the data should follow the normal distribution, we will see. And the second assumption is equal variances. That means that the two groups which you are conducting an experiment and control, the means should differ, but the variations should be similar in both the groups. The third one is random sampling, where you should pick the data in random. So, if you see on the screen, basically the normal distribution look like this. It is a bell shaped curve. So, what are the characteristics of this normal curve? The total area under the curve represents 100% of all the values. The mean and median and also mode are found below the apex, and 5% of the values lie beyond 2 standard deviations from the median, and 9.7% of the data will lie between mean plus or minus 3 SD of the data. So, if at all the data which you generated has these characteristics, then we say that it is a normal distribution. If you put in a graph, it will exactly look like a bell shaped curve. For example, whether the data is adhering to normal distribution or not, how do you check? As a simple example, which Journal of American Dietary Association has published a paper, in that adherence to normal distribution can be evaluated by creating a density curve or plotting the data in a histogram or normal probability plot. If you see the dietary calcium intake among 6th grade girls estimated with a food frequency questionnaire of 250 girls, they just drawn a histogram and superimposed it with a normal curve. It appears that the data is closely following the normal distribution, but not exactly normal distribution, which is a reflection of this, which we call the normal probability curve. If all the points in that curve or adhering to the diagonal line, then we say it is perfectly normally distributed. But here somewhere it is deviating, so it's not very perfect normal curve, but we can say that it is closely a normal distribution. If at all they are not following normal distribution or normal data, what we have to do? Then if you see the A1 graph which I am showing to you, it is also from the Journal of American Dietetic Association. Dietary calcium intake among children 1 to 3 years old in Bolivia as estimated with a single 24-hour recall method of 156 children. If you see the data and if you see the graph, it is right skewed, highly skewed distribution. Sometimes what happens, whenever your data is skewed, then the first thing we do is we transform the data or we stabilize the data. One of the better things to stabilize the data is transforming into log or natural log. The same data A1, when we transformed it into logarithms and again we put in a graph and we see the shape of the curve, it is actually close to normal, where in the previous occasion it was a skewed distribution. Though if you see the normal probability plot, in both the cases, the first case the points are very much away from the diagonal line, whereas after the log transformation the points have become close to the diagonal line. So therefore, whenever you collect a data and the data is not following normality, which is skewed in nature, the simplest thing one can do is you just transform the data using natural logarithms and use that transformed data for any statistical testing, if at all the data is following normal distribution. If at all that is not following normal distribution, then you should not use these parametric tests. Instead, you have to choose some other non-parametric counterparts where as a substitute you can use that test. The second one is homogeneity of variances, or seeing that both the variations are same in the two groups. If you see on the screen the test of hypothesis with the two variables, you have two distributions or two groups of data. If at all your variations are same, that means null hypothesis is sigma 1 square is equal to sigma 2 square, that means variance of the first group is equal to variance of the second group. Even the shapes are also same, we can see in the figure. And the alternative hypothesis, the variations are not same, that means that h1 is equal to sigma 1 square is not equal to sigma 2 square, we can see the shapes are different. So these can be tested by using the F statistic. The formula for F statistic is, if we have two groups, experiment and control, take the variations of the two groups, calculate the variations of the two groups, take the maximum variation in the numerator, minimum variation in the denominator, calculate the test called F test. If this F test is significant, that means that both the variations are significantly different, then you cannot use the t-test. Instead, either you transform the data or you go for a non-parametric test. If your F test is insignificant or not significant, that means that the null hypothesis is true and the two distributions appears to be same. Therefore, you can use the t-test where you can say that both the variations are same. Among the t-tests, there are three types of t-tests I was telling to you. The one type of t-test is one sample test, where you conduct an experiment with your own and you calculate the mean and standard deviation for that, and you will have the population mean, which we call as the mean which is available through your literature, through thesis, or someone else has already conducted this kind of experiment and calculated the mean and SD the mean. Therefore, you have to compare your mean with that of the available mean or a population mean, whether your mean is anyway different from that mean or it is same, which we call as a one sample t-test. The formula is very simple. The formula is the mean of your experiment x bar minus the mean of the third party or the mean available in the literature or a population mean divided by standard deviation of your values and divided by square root of n. S by square root of n, in general it is called standard error. If you just compute that, you get the t value. If the t value based on the number of subjects, if you see the table value and if a value is greater than that value, you reject the hypothesis, otherwise you accept the hypothesis. Subsequently, we will see some examples after I explain these t-tests. Then we have a test called two sample t-test or independent sample t-test, where you have the control group, you have the treatment group with you. So, you conduct an experiment, you calculate the mean and SD of the control group, you calculate the mean and SD of the treatment group. You want to see whether these two means are anyway different or not. For that, you will have to use the formula where assuming that the variations are same, otherwise t-test cannot be used until unless you do some transformation. The formula is as simple as the previous one, only here is the two means belongs to your experiment, that is x1 bar minus x2 bar, and you also have to calculate your standard deviations of the first group, standard deviation of the second group. Anyhow, you know the number of subjects of your first group, number of subjects of your second group. You just substitute the x1 bar minus x2 bar divided by the square root of n1 minus 1 is the first sample subjects minus 1 into the standard deviation square or the variance of the first sample plus n2 minus 1 is the sample size of the second group minus 1 into variance or standard deviation square divided by number of subjects of the first sample, number of subjects of the second sample minus 2 into 1 by number of subjects of the first sample plus 1 by number of the second sample. This is a simple formula. Of course, we have a lot of softwares and there are Excel also you can perform this. But as far as the formula is concerned, this is the formula where whenever you are using two independent sample t-test and assuming that the variations are same, you have to use this formula and calculate the t-value, which we call as observed value. This observed value you will have to compare with the table value. If your observed value is more than the table value, you reject the null hypothesis. That means that the means are statistically significant. If it is not, you accept the null hypothesis. That means that both your experimental and control group yielding the same result. If at all you have the groups where you are not assuming the variations are not homogeneous or they are different, somewhat different, then you can use this formula. The numerator won't change, the mean of the first group and mean of the second group divided by square root of the variance or standard deviation square of the first group divided by number of subjects of the first group plus variance of the second group divided by number of subjects of the first group. The testing of hypothesis is the same as we have done, saying that the null hypothesis is same and alternative hypothesis is different. If this is significant, you reject the null hypothesis. If it is not so, you accept the null hypothesis. There is another test called the paired sample test, where you only conduct the experiment twice or pre and post kind of a thing. For example, you give the intervention right now to number of subjects, say 20 subjects, and you follow them for whatever the time you specified, 3 weeks, 4 weeks or 1 month. Initially you take whatever the parameter you want to measure, that value, which we call as the pre-value. After your intervention is over, you again take the value, post value, the post minus pre or pre minus post, either way you can take. For that difference, we use the data for calculating the mean, not the actual values. In other t-test example, we have taken the actual values for calculating the t-values, but here we take the difference, that difference values only we calculate the mean. The formula is very simple. The numerator is the mean of the difference values divided by the standard deviation of different values and divided by square root of n, which we generally call as a standard error. If this value, again by seeing the table values, we also I will also explain while doing the examples what is the table value, how much it would be and where to pick, how to pick. But right now the t for the paired sample is nothing but the difference mean d bar divided by standard deviation of the difference divided by square root of n, which we call as standard error. If this value is statistically significant, we want to be, this value should be more than the table value. If it is more than table value, we reject the null hypothesis. If it is not so, we accept the null hypothesis. If you reject the null hypothesis, that means that there is a difference between the pre and post, or the intervention has an effect. If it is not, then pre and post did yield the same result. I have given the example from which has picked up from Pediatrics 2004. It is the goal is that to compare echocardiography measurements made by emergency physicians and experienced pediatric echocardiography providers. Therefore, these two experts measured the same thing and we want to see is there an agreement or a difference between these two experts. So, the null hypothesis is that no difference between emergency physicians and experienced pediatric echocardiographers, which is shown in the slide, and alternative hypothesis is that there is a difference between these two experts. The formula, as I was telling to you, is that the formula is T is equal to D bar. D bar is nothing but the mean of the difference, not the actual values, divided by standard deviation of the difference and by the square root of n, which is called a standard error. And if you see in the slide, the data is given for 31 subjects of the two experts data, and we take the difference of these two experts and put in a graph which is shown in the slide. It is almost looking like a normal curve using the histogram. Therefore, we can say that the difference of data is following normality, and we can go ahead with the Peery t-test. After using the formula, after estimating the t value, the difference between the measurements made by the echocardiographers and emergency physicians, we found that on an average, echocardiographers estimated 4.4% higher than the other experts. Therefore, it indicates that there is a 4.4% error or 4.4% difference between the two experts. And if you calculate the confidence interval, it is ranging from 1.6% to 7.4%. Therefore, the conclusion is that on an average, the echocardiographers' estimates were higher by 4.4%, whether this difference is significant or by chance. Therefore, by using the formula of the Peery t-test, we found that it is given in the table, and the cardiographer mean is 41.8 and emergency doctor is 37.4, and the mean difference between these two is 4.4%, and using the t-test, the t value is 3.177, which is significant at 0.004%, that means which is highly significant. Therefore, out of 1000, if at all you repeat it 1000 times, the interpretation is that only 4 times we may get wrong answer by chance. Otherwise, there is a clear-cut significant difference between the two experts, which is shown in the table which is in the slide. The other test which we are discussing is the third test, which we call as a 2-sample mean test or 2 independent sample test, where you as a researcher conduct experiment one group, control or placebo another group, take the mean and SDs of both the groups and see whether the means are statistically significant or not. If you see the slide here, the T formula which is given is x1 bar minus x2 bar in the numerator. That means that the mean of the first group, whether it is a control or experimental, and mean of the second group, the same control group, divided by the pooled standard deviation S and into square root of 1 by n1 plus 1 by n2 is the number of subjects of each group. The pooled standard deviation is nothing but n minus 1, number of subjects minus 1 into standard deviation square of the first group, n2 minus 1 into standard deviation square 2 square of the second group, divided by n1 plus n2 minus 2. Using this formula, you can substitute in the T formula and get the T value. You take for example experiment, example given in the slide. The experiment is conducted on 2 groups, one is a placebo group and another is a new drug group, where the cholesterol lowering drug has been given, and they want to see whether using this cholesterol drug, whether cholesterol level will decrease or not. The placebo group, 18 subjects were considered, and in the drug group 20 subjects were considered, and in the placebo group the mean value is 6.56 millimolars per liter with a standard deviation 1.06 millimolars per liter, and in the drug group the mean is 5.58 millimolars per liter and standard deviation of 1.14 millimolars per liter with a number of subjects of 20. If you see the groups and means and SDs here, in the placebo group 6.56 millimolars and in new drug group it is 5.58 millimolars. It is clearly showing that in the drug group the cholesterol level has got reduced by almost 1 millimolar per liter. Now we want to prove whether this 1 millimolar is statistically significant or not using the formula. So substituting these values in the formula given in the slide, the T value is 2.72 and the table value is, corresponding table value is 2.42, which is less than the observed value. Therefore, we reject the null hypothesis. Rejecting null hypothesis means the placebo mean is not equal to drug mean. That means that the cholesterol lowering drug has lowered the cholesterol level by 1 millimolar or close to 1 millimolar per liter, which is statistically significant, indicating that the drug has an effect in reducing the cholesterol level of the subjects. Here I have given a table for T distributions, which is given in any of the textbooks as an annexure. From here the degrees of freedom is nothing but the number of subjects in the first column. From that you have to pick either 5% or 1% or 0.1%, 0.1% of significance. Correspondingly, you see the value for testing whether your data, your observed value means using your real data, you find the t value, whether that t value is anyway different from this value. If it is more than this value, you reject the null hypothesis or you accept the null hypothesis. Now, you want to compare whether the prevalences of two groups or one group is different from another group. For example, you take an example in the slide which is given. Suppose that from the observation studies we know that about 8% of the MI group, which is given on the slide, is 8% and the active drug group is 5.38%. You want to compare and see whether this 5.38% is anyway different from the 8%, which we use a proportion T test or proportion Z test we call. The formula for this is you take the prevalence or percentage of your group minus the prevalence of the given 8%, which we call as the population prevalence, divided by the standard error of the prevalence. Standard error of the prevalence or proportion is calculated by using the formula. Standard error P1 is equal to square root of P1 into 1 minus P1, means 1 minus P1 is also called the Q. That means that 50% are prevalence, means having the disease, another 50% are normal, which we call as a P is equal to 1 minus Q. If at all Q, normals are 50%, Q is equal to 1 minus P. That is the relation we have, the normals and the diseased people, or prevalence of the particular disease and the normal people. Using this formula, if you substitute, which is given in the slide, the formula of our Z test, we found that the Z value is 5.24. In general, if at all your data is following a normal distribution which has a large sample size, or the sample is very large, more than 30, then 1.96 is the standard value for 5% error, 2.59 is the standard value for 1% error. By virtue of this, taking the value of the proportion test, 5.24 is the value which is more than 2.59 or 2.9. Therefore, it is highly significant at 0.001 level. Therefore, there is a significant difference between our observed value and the population value. Also, there is a need for two proportion T tests. Every time we will not confine ourselves with the one sample proportion, and sometimes we only do two experiments and get the proportions of first experiment, proportion of second experiment. We want to see whether those two proportions are statistically significant or not. Therefore, as an example, to test the difference between two populations, whether there is a significant difference or not, we use the Z test, the formula being P1, the proportion of the first group, and P2, the proportion of the second group, divided by the PQ. P is the pooled proportion of the two groups. That means P is nothing but N1 P1 plus N2 P2 by N1 plus N2, and Q is 1 minus P into 1 by N1 plus N2 whole square root is formula for calculating the difference, to find the difference between the two proportions, which we call as a Z test. For example, in a sample of random sampling of 600 men taken from a big city, 400 are smokers, and in the another city of 900 men randomly drawn, from them 450 are smoking. We would like to see whether the smoker prevalence is more in the first city or in the second city. So, if we calculate the prevalence of the first city, 600 men taken from them and 400 are smoking, it is almost 56.7%, and 450 are smoking from 900 from the second city, 50% are the smokers. By substituting this value in the formula given above, and we found that the value of the Z is 6.42. That means that if you compare this with the table value of 2.59, which is 1% significant, is highly significant, indicating that the prevalences of the smoking in two different cities are statistically different, indicating that the first city where the people are coming from 400 from 600 are statistically significant when compared to the other city, indicating that more number of smokers are there in the first city when compared to second city, which is statistically significant. These are the tests where you can use for calculating the significance between the two proportions, which we call as a Z test. If you see the flow chart given in the slide, how, where, when, what type of test to be used. If you see this flow chart for deciding what kind of different tests to be used, then the question we pose to you is, are you interested in the difference between two or more groups? Then I am asking again, how many groups, that is categories, how many categories? If it is one group, then we use one sample test. If it is more than two groups, we go for ANOVA. If it is two groups, is two sample independent. Then if at all it is a two group, then I ask a question whether they are independent or dependent. If it is independent, I go for a test called two sample t-test. If they are dependent, I go test called pair t-test. If they are not following the normality assumptions and the distribution is not normal, then I go for a Mann-Whitney test, which is a substitute for a t-test, and I go for a Wilcoxon test, which is a substitute for paired sample t-test. So this is the what you call flow diagram, where, how, when you can use. So far you have learned a very important technique. What I am suggesting is, apart from these slides and my lecture, you just go to a textbook, take a example first initially, and you take each test, solve it, and draw the conclusion. Always whenever you are doing, you should clearly write down the null hypothesis, the alternative hypothesis, and what is the problem you have got on hand, and you take the appropriate formula, whether it is one sample test, whether it is a two sample test or a pair t-test. So we have to define or clearly understand what is a dependent, what is an independent. If it is a pre and post, it is a dependent. If it is two groups, clearly they are independent. Therefore, use the formula accurately, and first you solve the problem from a textbook, so that you will know that whether your working example or you are doing the problem is correct or not. Then whenever you are doing research or you are having the real data, then apply the same thing, draw the conclusions. So far we have dealt with maximum number two groups. That means that you have an experiment, you have a control, or you have a pre and post one sample, or you have one sample t-test, or you have a large sample size which has a proportion Z test. Suppose if you want to have more, generally any experiment cannot be concluded, cannot be contained to two groups only. Sometimes your experiment needs more than two groups. For example, experiment, control, positive control, like that. Then what test to be used? Whether if at all you have a three groups, whether t-test can be used in combination 1 versus 2, 2 versus 3, 3 versus 1, it should not be used. Why it should not be used? Therefore, whenever you have the data which has more than two groups, then another test which is also very popular to be used. The name of the test is one-way analysis variance, which we will discuss in the next class. Therefore, your data now restricts and only compares two groups, that is called t-test. If at all your data increases or exceeds by more than two groups, you have to go for another technique which we call ANOVA test, that we will discuss in next class. All the best.